What is up, everybody? Welcome back to The Smoking Tire. I am Zach Clapman. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share, and check out our podcast. We air 2 days a week. It is awesome. I am in a car that people usually love or hate. This is the Toyota 86, aka the Subaru BRZ, formerly known as Scion FRS. And we're going to get into why people seem to hate them or love them a little bit later. This one is the Hakone Edition. Hakone is a road or turnpike in Japan that is amazing. It's like 3,300 vertical feet of just perfect curving tarmac, lined by cherry blossoms, climbing up into the mountains. The turns look amazing. You've probably seen it on videos or driven it in a video game. If you haven't, go check it out. It would be like if America named a car like the Ford Fiesta ST Tail of the Dragon, or the Angeles Crest Forest, Mustang. So what does this give you that you don't get with a normal 86? You get the special Hakone green color, which is amazing, and I hope it shows up as well in the video as I want it to. You also get bronze wheels. You get these brown tan seats with the Alcantara liners, Alcantara on the doors and the dash, and that is it. And all of that attached to the car costs you $29,870. Now, there's a couple of flavors of 86 you can get. You can get the Subaru TS, which is stiff suspension, STI bracing and bushings, sticky tires, stuff like that. Or in the Toyota side, you can get the TRD package, which comes with Brembo brakes, stiffer suspension, and PS4 wheels. So this comes with the regular brakes. How those fare really depends on how you drive, and we're going to find out. I have loved this car ever since I drove the FRS when they first came out. I really have. Some of it might be some bias because there's Subaru parts in here, like the shifter, the steering wheel. I think they felt really familiar compared to my STI. But mostly it's because I just feel really confident and comfortable driving it quickly immediately. It talks to you through the steering wheel. The front wheels and back wheels kind of talk to you through the seat. The seats hold me in really well, although if you're much bigger than I am, you won't be that comfortable. These are pretty narrow. I find you can just carry a lot of momentum through the corners, even though the tires are hard and cheap. I actually like the fact that the tires are cheap because it means your operating costs will go down. Not will go down, but are less expensive than if you're running sticky, expensive tires. And if my car is cheaper to operate day to day, week to week, I am more likely to go driving more often. You know, if you have to drive a car that has $1,000, $2,000 more or more tires on it, and you have to replace them really frequently, unless you are balling so hard. I don't know. For me, when I was driving a car that had expensive tires, it put this thought in the back of my head of, well, should I really go to the canyons again? Should I do a track day? If I do a track day, half the tire wear is going to be gone. I'm going to have to buy new tires. What's my bank account like right now? Blah, 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 blah. I think it can just add up quickly, whether it's consciously or subconsciously, and it will impact how often you want to go driving. And it is the driving squad of Miata RF and Model 3. Boy, it is busy, and I sure know how to pick which way to go. We are going to go back down the hill. That way this car feels faster. Other things I like the visibility, I like the ergonomics. I think they're pretty much perfect. The pedal spacing is perfect for heel and toe. The gates in the shifter have pretty good feel. Not as good as the Miata, not as good as like Honda's top-notch, best shifter action ever in like an S2000 or Civic Si, but pretty good. Nothing I would complain about. Totally fine, feel really accurate. I like how communicative it all is to me. I feel like I know exactly how much grip each tire has individually. It also has a good amount of cargo space. I have cup holders here and here. I also have 2 back seats that I could theoretically put some kind of person in. But most importantly, those seats fold, and then you can fit quite a lot of stuff in the trunk. It has way more space than a Miata. Way more. It gets good gas mileage on the highway. They advertised 28, but I was seeing 31 earlier. It's pretty quiet on the highway. It's not as stiff, bouncy, or loud as I was expecting it to be. Definitely a better commuting experience than the Miata RF I had last week. You know, I'm a fan of how these feel in the hands, in the seat. I think they just drive great. The chassis are good. The aftermarket support is really strong. They're good drift cars, clearly, with a lot of modification. I mean, they're good at a lot of things. E36, oh, E36 sedan, that's what's up. Now, let's talk about what they're bad at. What better place to do it than going uphill? Because the engine, it's enough, but not enough at the same time. You know, it's an opposed cylinder, 4-cylinder. It makes 205 horsepower and 151 foot-pounds of torque. Peak power is at like 6,800. Peak torque is 4,800, I believe. But, okay, so the numbers are not great. The numbers aren't great for 2020. Everyone's been asking them to put a turbo on this car or a supercharger for a long, long time. It's not like Subaru doesn't have the technology to put turbochargers on cars. And, you know, they don't do it, okay? We've asked, they're not doing it, there must be a reason, whatever. But the problem with the engine is that it's got a torque hole in it. Like, this engine makes 20 fewer horsepower than the Miata engine, but the Miata feels faster and feels better. It's got a better sound to it. I mean, it's an inline-4, that's different. But the Miata starts making peak torque at 4,000 RPM and then pulls all the way to 7. This car, and I'm gonna insert a little graphic right now, has an actual dip in the torque curve. So when you get on the gas at like 3,000 RPM, you initially feel this like shove. It's pretty strong. And that's because it's making 90% of peak torque at that low 3.5 RPM. But then from 3,500 to 4,600, it goes down and then back up. It actually looks like a pot-bellied pig. So you kind of get this initial shove, and then you feel the torque drop, and you're like, wait, am I going slower? And like, no, the speedometer's going up, and you are making more power because the power band climbs, but the torque actually dips almost immediately after like this punch. It's just a really weird feeling. And then it kind of comes back on again as you get to 4,600 RPM, and then it falls back down as you get towards 7,000 RPM. So it's just like, it's a wave of emotions. You know, the torque band is bipolar. You just don't know how to feel. I don't know. It's almost, ooh, you did not pull over enough. You did not pull over enough. You do what you did. I'm gonna let you do that. We're gonna pause. I think it's just that this torque band is weird. I've never driven a car that I can remember that has felt like this. You know, it's not like a turbo BMW where there's way too much torque right away, especially a couple years ago, and then it's just flat. It's not like a V8 where it's like a big punch and then it keeps punching you. It's kind of like, it's like it throws a jab and then it backs out of the fight for a little bit. And then when horsepower jumps in, it goes, oh, okay, I'll help now. Like that's kind of, it's like your friend in a bar fight that throws the first punch and then gets everyone in trouble, so then everyone else has to start fighting, but then that guy backs up for a second just to see what happens. Honestly, that's my only real complaint about these cars, is that they're too slow. I mean, a Miata, a 2018 or 2019 Miata will beat this thing 0 to 60. They're too slow. And if you're gonna be slow, which is okay, it's just, why does it have to feel that way? Why is it? It's just it is not a fun engine to rev out. It always feels like you feel like you're waiting for some kind of something to happen, and it doesn't. You're going faster. The numbers show you're going faster. You know what it's like when they start putting soundtracks on electric cars, and you can like select your engine. That's kind of what it's like. It feels like there's an electric motor that is making me do fun things, and I'm going pretty quickly. But the soundtrack they put over it is just like somehow dull and out of sync with what the gas pedal is actually doing. It's so fun to drive. It's so fun to drive. It is so, I mean, this, when you're going downhill, it reminds me of like skiing or riding your bicycle when you're a kid, or rollerblading, like anything that you've ever done with motion where you are just slaloming for fun. You know, remember being a kid, or some of you are kids, and you're just riding down a big hill on a bike, there's no cars around, and you just start carving a little bit, and you just feel the tire pushing against the wheel, pushing against your handlebars, like you're just kind of feeling the G-forces, and there's something about that sensation that is really enjoyable. And that's what this car does. It speaks to you. You know, the tires send a message to the wheels, to the suspension, to the steering arm, all the way up to your fingertips. And that message is sent quickly and clearly. And it's so enjoyable. You know, I mean, horsepower is fun. You know, romping on a V8 in a straight line is a really good time. But you're going to want to keep adding power. You're going to get bored with whatever power you have. But cars like this, Miatas, Fiesta STs, anything that handles well and talks to you about what the road's doing and the car is doing, guy, it lights up so many more senses than just flooring it in a straight line. And, you know, I understand if you're like 17 to 25, like power and drag racing is really fun. I've been there, but I'm telling you, if you dismiss this car just because it's slow, you're missing out. You're missing out on a lot of good stuff. Look, the brake pedal feel is good. It bites really quickly. I have so much visibility. I can see everything. I am Sauron. Like, I know where the corner's going, and I can, ooh, hello. You can turn this thing into an apex just because the car is not that wide. It has a really nice wide track. It's got a 60-inch wide track, which is not that much smaller than a 370Z, even though that car weighs 600 pounds more. So you've got this wide track that makes it feel really stable and balanced. The center of gravity is almost that of an LFA or an F430. It's super low. It's like 18.1 inches or something. So you got your center of gravity really low, spread out on a wide track. That's why this car is magic to drive. It's the right size. The wheelbase is right. It's the same as an F430, I think. It's nimble but stable. It feels, I mean, that's why these things can drift, but Miatas aren't great for that. But that's also why it feels really agile in the corners. These cars are great. You know, okay, so some of the materials are cheap. I mean, it's trying to give you a lot, but it's trying to make it affordable. I wish they were like a couple grand less. I think a lot more people would kind of adopt, you know, I think a lot more people would get into these cars if they're a little less expensive, because I think they're aimed at people that are like in their early 20s and are starting to get into track driving, autocross, but they need something that's affordable, reliable, fuel efficient, and can do, you know, they can do some stuff. I can carry some friends, I can carry some stuff in the back if I need to. I can commute every day and not spend a ton of money on gas. That's like who they're aimed at in my head, but they're priced at someone who has a little bit more money. And then you start getting into the V6 Camaro 1LE price bracket, the Turbo 1LE, even though that engine is stronger but somehow more boring and more invisible. You know, you're knocking on the door of Mustang GTs. They won't have the power, the track pack. They won't handle as well, but you're just, it's really, I think for a lot of people, it's hard to look at $30,000 for 200 horsepower and think that that's going to work for them. But I guess I would say you should at least drive one at a dealership or Turo one or borrow one from a friend, because like the Miata, this is a great class in how a car should feel. Like how it should feel to go around corners and brake, and how the balance of a car should feel, how the steering should like press against your hands, how it should feel in the seat. Like, this car gives you a lot of information when you're driving quickly, and that's what a good performance or sports car should do. So driving one of these, much like the Miata, it's a great quick class in how a good car should feel. Whether or not you want to buy one, or you want to go to the used market and get a used C6 or, you know, something like that, like, there's a lot of different ways you could spend 30 grand. But I think this car does a lot of stuff that you maybe don't appreciate right away, but it's an efficient commuter, it's a great driver, and you can modify them. And the aftermarket, that is so over the double yellow, it's not even funny. The aftermarket has come around really hard. I mean, I think these are like a classic British roadster that we don't appreciate yet, and they're going to be a sports car that we will appreciate more as the years go on, just because of how well they drive. I really, really think that. So thank you to Toyota for giving me the 86. This color is excellent. It's got such awesome flake. Thank you to you guys for watching and supporting us for all these years. And yeah, go out, drive something fun, be safe. See you next time.